So this part of the report is going to be about the mushroom class, the fields, factories, and mushroom regen. So to start off with the mushroom class itself, it's a game object for the collisions. Um, I gave it a Inu mushroom state to determine whether it's a normal mushroom or a poison mushroom instead of creating an entirely new class. Um, as far as the functions that it has, I made a poison function and just an initialize and some gets. And for this is for the initialization too, just setting the variables, and then the actual regen function. So these would be its uh, private members, just some. So the health, its row and column, and then the command scores for when it does die has a pointer to the mushroom field, and it also has its mushroom state. So code itself. The mushroom does get oh sorry, mushroom does get created or by a mushroom factory, and I already showed those off. They're the same as the other ones except for the mushroom factory it gets two different score commands for when it's a normal mushroom or a poison mushroom, and depending on which it is, it'll uh, send that command. But the mushroom actually when the mushroom oops, close that on accident. So in the mushroom factory, it'll grab a mushroom, it'll set the variables of the mushroom, and that would be right here. So the position, its row and column, the mushroom field, and it'll get the command scores for the normal and poison. And okay, so then let's see. So this is for the collision with the bullet. It'll decrease its health. If the health reaches zero or it's somehow less than zero, uh, it'll there's one if check to see if it is a normal mushroom or a poison mushroom, and depending on which it is, it'll send the appropriate score command, and then it'll let the mushroom field know that it has been destroyed. Then it'll get marked for destroy. Otherwise, if the mushroom still has health left, it'll update its sprite to show that it has been damaged. And then here's the poison function I have. This gets called when the mushroom collides with the scorpion. If it's not already poisoned, it'll become poisoned and it'll change its sprite to reflect that as well. And it'll also let the mushroom field know that it has become poisoned, and it'll update the grid of the mushroom field to also know that it's poisoned as well. So here's just a collision with a spider, it'll get destroyed. It gets I already showed the set var, so when it gets regen, this gets called by the mushroom regeneration. If the health is not at max health, or if the mushroom is a poison mushroom, it'll restore the mushroom, and so it'll restore its health to the max, make it a normal mushroom, and it'll reset its sprite to be a normal mushroom as well. And this it returns an int, in this case 1 or 0, because I have a counter for the mushroom regen. I'll show it soon. Um, but basically just to keep track of how many mushrooms get regenerated. So then here's the actual initialize for the mushroom, and just sets the state to normal. The health gets set to max. The sprite gets set to the right sprite. The position. So then yeah, it's just a get for if something needs to know whether the mushroom is poisoned or not. Already went to the mushroom factory. Object pool is the same thing as all the other object pools. Here's the mushroom field itself. Okay, so I have a struct part of the mushroom field just in the column. And then here are all the functions. I got initialize, deinitialize, generate field. Placing the mushroom, it controls whether it can. The mushroom field itself poisons the mushrooms. Um, it is aware of when a mushroom is destroyed, whether a specific position on the field has a mushroom or a poison mushroom. It also keeps track of the count of the mushrooms in the player area. And yes, okay. And then as far as its members go, it has a vector of grid positions. That would be the struct right here. And that gets used when the mushroom field is wiped off. It'll keep track of the mushrooms position. That way it can spawn them in the right position. So the mushroom field itself is a two-dimensional array of mushroom pointers. And right here, so when the mushroom field gets created, the mushroom field gets created. This is the setup for the 2D array. It sets all the positions to 0. When the mushroom field gets deleted, this is how I am cleaning it up, just deleting the rows. And then for the initialize, um, actually, well, first thing that would happen with the mushroom field is the field itself would get generated, um, and then it'll go through each row of the mushroom field, and then there's 2 mushrooms spawn per row. So I've got this first for loop that goes through each row, except for the last row. And then I have this for loop that'll loop twice to spawn 2 mushrooms. Right here, it'll get a random column. It'll get the grid position struct that I have object right here. Um, it'll set the column and row, and then that would get pushed into the vector of shroom positions. And it just does that for all of the mushrooms. And then once to actually spawn the mushrooms, the initialize function gets called, and it takes all those positions of the mushrooms. It goes through the vector. It'll place the mushrooms, which should be right here. It checks to see, and then the place mushrooms, it checks to see if there is already a mushroom or not in that cell. If there isn't, it'll check to see if that cell is free or not. So if there's text in that cell, it won't spawn a mushroom. But if the cell is free, it'll get a mushroom from the mushroom factory. It'll set that mushroom to this specific position in the 2D array. It'll initialize the mushroom, and then it'll update the grid to say that now this spot is blocked. And it'll also check to see if the mushroom is within the player area and update the mushroom count. So, and then here's the poison mushroom function. It just checks to see if there is a mushroom in that position, and if there is, it will call the poisoned mushroom. It'll call the mushroom function poisoned, and it'll poison the mushroom. And then here is mushroom destroyed for when a mushroom gets destroyed. It'll call, to let the field know. It'll set that mushroom's position to 0, update the grid to let it know that it's free, and it'll check to see if that mushroom is in the player area, and it'll decrease the count. And then whenever a mushroom in the player is destroyed, the flea manager gets alerted, and then it'll determine whether or not it needs to spawn a flea, but I'll get into that a little later. And then then it'll check to see if it has a mushroom. Let's see. Where oh, here we go. So it has mushroom, it'll return true. Actually, not sure why that's there. That shouldn't be there. Get rid of that. So let's see. So yeah, here's the has mushroom function. It just sees if in the mushroom field, if it has a mushroom, turns true. If it doesn't, turns false. For the has poison mushroom, it's basically the same thing, except it goes a little bit more in depth and it checks to see if that mushroom is poison or not. Then it'll return true or false. Then here's the get state. This is mostly used to see if there's text in that cell, and then just some gets to get either the mushroom or mushroom count, and then yeah, so that'd be it for the mushroom field. Okay, and then go into the mushroom regen. So here's the mushroom regen class I have. It is a singleton. So, so yeah, here's the pointer instance. Singleton itself gets created. Uh, right here, when it gets terminated, deletes the pointer instance, sends it to null. And then as far as function goes, it just has regen mushrooms. Um, and with that function, it gets given a mushroom field, and it has a counter to see for every 2 mushrooms regenerated, player will get 5 points. And it goes through the mushroom field, and it checks to see if it has a mushroom, and if it does, it'll uh, update that mushroom's field grid to blocked, and it'll also add to the counter. Uh, if yeah, sorry, the counter variable will get updated depending on the mushroom regen function, and that regen function will return either a 1 or 0 depending on if the mushroom was regenerated or not. Then it'll check the counter to see if it's equal to 2. So if 2 mushrooms were regenerated, player gets 5 points added to their score, and that is it for the mushroom field or mushroom regenerator. That is all it does. Yep. Yeah, so yeah, that should be it for the. Yep, that is it for the mushrooms.